We want to be successful in business, not from love, not from abundance. It's from a need that wasn't met. So in essence, our business and our success is actually a result of pain that we have yet to.
And I'm sorry to interrupt. You mind repeating that one more time? Because
Yeah.
I think that's a powerful statement.
Being you requires no effort. When you heal and you return to your essence, the money that you want is no longer a goal. It is a reflection of you living from your essence. No effort.
Mic drop.
Dude, what is the difference between somebody that's a billionaire and somebody that's a millionaire? Someone who is more afraid. Our deepest fear as human beings, the real question we need to ask ourselves is, why do we need to become billionaires? It's a trap for you never finding the most important thing that you're here to find in this lifetime. Whether it's ayahuasca or psilocybin, the medicine just reflects back to you what's going on inside of you. A lot of religious people reject plant medicine, and I know because I was one of them. I'll tell you why. Because religion in and of itself is...
Danny, welcome to You Versus You. I am super excited to have you here and walk through not only your life experience and the journey you're on right now with Awaken Your Highest Self, which I have a million questions about and a lot of things I know we're going to be able to relate to, because as I was reading your story, there were so many touch points that felt very personal to my own life experience. But most importantly, taking it back to where it all started, before the moment of awakeness, before the moment of change and transformation. Take me to that place where you were looking at real estate as the way to build success, to build the life of your dreams.
Yeah.
Take me to that starting point of your career and why real estate. What were you thinking? What did success mean to you at that point? So many questions to answer.
Yeah. So first off, thanks for having me. I remember the day after I graduated high school, I was laying in bed, and if you remember the show Tom and Jerry, with the
Yeah.
little mouse and the cat, if you remember, there would be like a little angel and a little devil, Tom or whatever, and like one would tell him to do the right thing and one would to tell him to do like the bad thing. I had that moment. I was laying in bed and I thought to myself, okay, I'm 18 years old. My dad's not around. No one's coming to save us. We live in the ghetto. We have no money. And this is not the life that I want for myself. So like on one end, it was like, just do what everyone does, like get a job, and like just go get some security. And on the other end, it was like, nah, don't do that. Like go start a business. And all I remember was in that moment, I just remember saying, okay, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And that's the secret to life. The secret to life in you and your expansion is to like detach yourself from needing to know the how. But I said, I'm going to buy my mom a house by the time I'm 21 years old. And that's it. I just set that intention, right? About a week later, I'm at a job fair and I see a real estate agent. And I walk up to him and I ask him the magic questions. And I said, is there any money in real estate? He said, yeah. And I said, I'll tell you what, right now I'm working 6 days a week. I will go work for you for free on Sundays if you just teach me, because I always really believed and knew, like, if I could just get the knowledge, like I'm unstoppable. I will find a way to make it happen. And that's where it began.
What was it about your life experience to that point that gave you the confidence to say, I could do it all? Whatever that is, I can do it, right?
I think it was not having a father around.
Mm.
I know we'll get to this eventually, but all of us in our essence have masculine and feminine energy. And that masculine and feminine energy is directly connected to our relationship with our mother and father, which is directly connected to our relationship with our own mind and heart, which is directly connected to our relationship with God and the divine, and in essence, life itself. And so I had a pretty deep wound from my father in that my father's father disowned him from the day he was born. So what happens there is when our parents go through that is my father never had a father, so he didn't know how to be a father. But I didn't know that back then. I was just angry inside that he wasn't there for me. And then my mother's mother died when she was only 13 days old. So My mother never received mothering, so she didn't know how to be a mother to me. And this is, I think, something that's very prevalent, especially in the Latino culture, is that, our ancestors, they carry a lot of pain, especially when they come here to this country. First, they're made to feel less than. Secondly, they don't feel as educated. Third, they don't know the language. So they start to live in this energy of I am lower than other people. And this is actually what dark energy wants for us. It wants us to be separate from the truth, the essence of who we are. Well, if I'm honest with myself, the pain that I felt from not getting my needs met by my parents is the thing that drove me to be successful in business. I didn't realize it back then. And the reason why this is so important is so many of us, we want to be successful in business, not from love, not from abundance. It's from a need that wasn't met when we were little boys or little girls. So, in essence, our business and our success until we awaken and start the healing journey is actually a result of pain that we have yet to heal.
Still crazy to us how only about 50% of you guys are subscribed to our channel. Now, we love that you're listening to this content and it is a blessing to your life, and we would love for you to join our global community. So hit that subscribe button, hit the like, comment, and share. And thank you for tuning in to You versus You. I relate to that. I grew up in the same experience. I think a lot of my driving force was that feeling that need and that feeling of that not being good enough and having to prove to myself that I could do, and having a limitless mindset as I was a young 16-year-old Lex looking at eating the world of the music together. But going into your experience, you joined the real estate firm, you started learning.
Mhm.
What was it about that experience that allowed you to trigger the, okay, I am an intern, I'm learning, I'm doing work, but there's a way to use this to not just have a job that supplies, but create wealth, right? Because someone asked me the other day, what is the difference between a millionaire and a billionaire? Mindset, right? I have a lot of billionaire friends who will say clearly, your moral standing is too high for you to make the decisions that are necessary in business to create a level of wealth that is astronomical. I had a billionaire friend told me that. And I found it really interesting because it's a mindset. It's the emotional reaction to having to make decisions when everything's up in the air, right? But what was it for you in that life experience as you were just an intern or just learning that started to create a path in the chess game that allow you to think, oh, I could not only use this opportunity to feed myself at this moment, but I can create wealth out of it.
Before I answer that, I want to go back to the billionaire thing because I think it's deeper than that and most people don't really realize this. Our deepest fear as human beings is the fear of failure. It's our deepest fear. It's ingrained in us energetically. And the system that has been created here in the 3D world, the thing that signifies whether you are a failure or success in the 3D world prior to your awakening is money. So I want to challenge that. My answer to what is the difference between somebody that's a billionaire and somebody that's a millionaire is someone who is more afraid. Because the real question we need to ask ourselves is why do we need to become billionaires? What's the attachment to it? Why not 100 million? Why not 500 million? Why? And that's when you allow yourself to go deep enough and start to realize, wait a minute. And I say this because that was me. Like, I'm going to become a millionaire. I'm going to become a billionaire. I'm going to become a billionaire. And one day I said, why the fuck do you want to become a billionaire? And the deeper and deeper and deeper that I took it, I found the part of me that I was afraid to be in peace. I found the part of me that was afraid to be still. I found the part of me that was afraid that I wasn't enough. I found the part of me that was afraid to be seen for who I actually was. Yeah. And I connected all of that to, oh my God, if someday I can become a billionaire, then I'll be enough. And my beautiful brother, who I'm just getting to meet right now, and for all of our listeners, that's a trap. It's a trap for you never finding peace. It's a trap for you never finding presence. And it's a trap for you never finding the most important thing that you're here to find in this lifetime, yourself. Now, I didn't say being a billionaire is a bad thing. Hear me now. I didn't say that. My question is what is the energy? What is the obsession that all of us in society have with a number, a destination, a target, a focus? Because look what I'm doing. For as long as we're doing this, guess where we're never going to be? Here. And if you're not here, you can't be in love.
Yeah, and I want to touch on that because we're going to get there. I think both of us have reached that point where we've gotten to the place where we've started to understand the real value is in here.
Yeah.
But when we were growing up being 13, 15 years old, that was not the mindset, right? We were kids looking at the world saying, I want to eat it all. And I think what I've started to understand in the process of doing You versus You was that while it's amazing to give people the tools to get here where we got, a large part of our experience that got us there
I understand.
were the pain and the hurt and the things that we did. And a lot of the people are still here.
So can I give you an example?
Yeah.
To answer your question. So my parents divorced when I was 13. And when my parents divorced, my mother moved the three of us to California. And in that moment, this is the answer to your question. In that moment, I stopped being a son because I had two younger brothers. And in a very weird way, I became the man of the household at 13. And my relationship with pressure is a privilege. Like I felt the privilege of having the pressure of needing to be the man of the household at 13 years old, to the point that in New York City, which is where we lived, you don't need a car. But in Southern California, you have to have a car.
Yeah.
So I convinced my mom to buy a car, but I'm not one for details. So I convinced her to buy a stick shift, which is so much harder to learn how to drive. And by the way, my mom didn't know how to drive. So my mom gets in this car. She doesn't have a license. She doesn't know how to drive. And she's like she's a very timid human being. So guess who had to drive? Me. So at 13, not only was I the man of the house, I was driving us all around. Now listen, there's pros and cons to that, right? The pro is like, I had to grow up really fast. And guess what the con is? I had to grow up really, really fast. Yeah. Life was no longer fun for me. I wasn't allowed to be a kid. And it's really important. This is the message that I want to get across to everybody, is that that's what my journey was. That doesn't necessarily have to mean that that's your journey. And so my advice would be is to find the thing within you that says that the way that life is going for me right now is not fulfilling me. And if you can be honest about that, like really honest about that, that's what typically gives birth to the life that you want to live.
I think that the interesting thing about our paths and what you've talked about that I think is great for people to recognize is where the drive is coming from, right? So much of what you speak about in your conferences and what you speak about in the book is the idea of perceiving the world, right? We tell ourselves these stories and we believe our stories, so therefore we become this idea of success in our minds is if we don't have the record plaque or the awards or the money, we're not worth it. So we tend to put a number on the value of what would make us feel special, right?
Mhm.
To your point, the billionaire idea of, I don't think there was a kid that didn't grow up saying, oh, I'm going to be a billionaire or I'm going to be a superhero, right? And you walk around your house playing to be a superhero. Because I really think that the biggest issue in the human condition is our lack of identity, our lack of understanding who we truly are. And I truly believe we are the superhero, right? Every essence of who we are is Superman, Batman, whoever you want to call. But we've been programmed because of the stories that we've been told, because of our inheritance in thought and mind and perception, that we're not enough. And that's what gets sold to us, right? If we weren't enough, if you wouldn't be able to commercialize an item, because the whole reason why you buy is because you'll put a Rolex on and you'll feel like you've made it. And so I think identifying, and what I'm bringing out of what I heard you talk about, is truly identifying, even as a kid, even as a 15-year-old, 20-year-old, sometimes 40-year-old who's listening to this, is what's the driving force? Where's the story coming from that puts you in the rat race of almost destroying your life for the sake of creating this success?
Can I tell you where it comes from?
Yeah.
When we're born, we all have a mother and father. And I say that understanding that for some of us, our fathers or our mothers weren't present, but it requires the male and the female energy to create life in this reality. And what happens is, and I really want us to picture this, is that when we're born, we are helpless. We're on our backs. We can't feed ourselves. We can't walk. We can't talk. We literally cannot do anything, which means that we are 100% dependent on these caretakers, this man and this woman, right, to provide for us and to take care of us. And what happens is that when our needs are not met, when we are not shown love, when we energetically feel stress, when we energetically feel arguing and fighting, in the first 7 years of our lives, we all have to understand that, especially in that first 12 months, we just came from source. So energetically, we feel and we're absorbing everything. And in that absorption, this is what I cover in the book, we are absorbing pain. And we correlate life with pain, or life with I'm not enough. Whatever your mother and father didn't give you, that's what you correlate life and God with. If your mother and father were punishing, God is punishing and life is punishing. If your mother and father were stressed out, God is stressed out and life is supposed to be stressed out. If your mother and father were constantly in a place of, poverty, then life is poverty and life equals lack. And then based off of those stories, you react to those stories in one of two ways. Either A, you say, I'm not going to live my life like that, which is great. But just understand that you, in essence, are saying, I don't want to be like, I am rejecting the people that gave me life. You're going to have to heal that eventually. Or C, you're going to go, you know what? Ugh, life is too scary to try to do anything differently. And so what you do is you accept their energy, which isn't even your own energy. Yeah. And so for the entrepreneur, the person that says, I reject this, I reject the poverty, I reject the stress, I reject the whatever, I'm going to go out and make it happen, then guess what happens? That's when the world meets you and goes, oh, on an energetic level, you don't realize you're doing this, but you're operating from a deep wound. So here, let me feed that wound a little bit more. Let me give you the watch. Let me give you the purse. Let me give you the boobs. Let me give you the lips. Let me give you the car. Let me give you all of these things that obviously will never fulfill you. And let me dangle this thing called money, right? So that someday, this is the spiritual journey, you awaken and realize that nothing outside of you will ever fulfill you. And that's when life actually begins. And when you can get to that point, then you're in your essence. And here's the beautiful thing. When you are in your essence, you realize that being you requires no effort. What that means essentially is when you are
And I'm
truly,
sorry to interrupt. I love that. Do you mind repeating that one more time? Because I
yeah,
think that's a powerful statement.
yeah, being you requires no effort. The tree requires zero effort. The tree doesn't have to worry about where the water's coming from. The tree doesn't have to worry about where the sun is coming from. The tree doesn't have to worry about anything. The tree just is the tree. Yeah? And when you do this work and when you heal and you return to your essence, my beautiful brothers and sisters, the money that you want is no longer a goal, is no longer a target, it's no longer a means to an end, it's no longer something that justifies your existence. It actually is no longer from the outside in. It is a reflection of you living from your essence. No effort, money just shows up. The relationship that you're in, it's no longer hard work. Everyone calls relationships hard work because they're all disconnected from themselves. Once you're back returned to yourself, your truest essence, that relationship is just a reflection of who it is that you are inside. And all of us are crazy about fitness. Women are so attached to having a bigger butt. Why? Because they're disconnected from themselves. They're in the energy of competition and comparison. If my butt could just be bigger, then I'll be enough.
Yeah.
It's the same way with men and watches and cars and everything. So even the body, the physical body, it can live without the need of prescription medications. It can live without the need of any illness or disease because the body is also just reflecting the deep energy that's within us as well.
I love that. One of the things I share a lot about being a father, I grew up in a very religious home. My mother is a pastor, my father's a Buddhist, my family is Jewish. So I grew up in this environment of here are the rules to the game,
That's right. Yeah.
right? And as I grown up and as I developed, I found my own awakening, I started to realize that the best thing I could do for my daughter was to work on self, right? In how I reflect, how I deal with the separation between pain and suffering, how I deal in the separation of stress, how I project myself when I'm in home with my daughter, what I limit and don't limit, right? I remember so many times, you can't do that. That's not right. This is not it. That and I come into fathering from a perspective of no, you can do it all. Right?
That's
There
right.
is no limitation to that
That's right.
experience. My best way to teach you is to work on self. And so
Mhm.
I attach myself so much to that statement that you just made. And going back to your story, you come out, you're building a real estate empire, you've acquired wealth, and life starts lifing. You said before the passing of your mother,
Yeah.
the beginning of the separation of your family unit. And before we started to record, we talked about the moving of Austin and the reasoning behind you wanting to be present in compared to your own personal experience, which is something I could relate in my own life experience as well. Looking back at those moments, would you be the man today if it wasn't for those moments?
No, it's another point of understanding for us as human beings. All suffering comes from resistance. Please remember that, feel it, meditate on it, embodying it. It literally means that when you let go of resistance, you let go of suffering in your life. Anxiety, nervousness, fear, anything. It is all deeply connected to resistance. And the thing that we resist the most is our past. We resist and we judge our past, the way our mother was with us, the way our father was with us, what happened with school, what happened with the breakup, what happened with the business that I tried, whatever. We are constantly in resistance in the past. And the most beautiful thing that you can ever understand in your life is that the gift is in letting go of the resistance. And when you finally let go of the resistance, you realize that everything that you've experienced was the greatest gift for your life because it's what's been helping you to shape your life. This is why I tell people it's like right now, one of the biggest words that we use in relationships is narcissist. So let's talk about this,
Mm.
right? People hate it when I say this, but there are no narcissists. And the reason why I bring that up is because there are narcissists when you live in victim energy, separation, and fear. In other words, you have to address and put your pain in a box and you have to put that pain onto someone else. That's what separation does. Yeah. The only way that you can transcend anything and everything in life is for you to own the pain, for you to accept that you were the creator of it, or at bare minimum, the co creator of it, for you to actually not distance yourself from it, but to embody it. And when you do, guess what happens? You enter the world of love. And in the world of love, you are not separate from anything. You are one with everything. That means that you are even one with that very narcissist that you are calling a narcissist. So by you calling them a narcissist, what you're actually doing is you're calling yourself something. You are separating yourself from yourself. When you are in the world of oneness, you go, my God, oh my God, They played the perfect character in my life to get me to hopefully wake up and realize that I have been calling people into my life based off of my pain. And that's when you enter oneness and creator energy. Because now you're not a victim to the narcissist. As a matter of fact, there's no more narcissists. Now you go, fuck, I created that to teach me something. And that's when you go to love and you go, instead of hating them and joining the Narcissist Anonymous fucking coaching club and all this shit that we do when we're trying to make the world wrong, we make the world right. We find the beauty in everything. And guess what we do to that narcissist that we used to blame and hate? We say, thank you. Thank you for being my life's greatest teacher. Thank you for helping me to wake up to the parts of myself that needed pain and that needed suffering. I no longer accept pain and suffering in my life, and I will never allow myself to be with anyone that treats me this way. And from this day forward, I'm going to spot it from the very beginning. And if it wasn't for you, I would have never been to this point. You see, you let go of resistance. So you let go of suffering, and now you're free. And can I tell you something? That's our greatest fear. Our greatest fear is peace and freedom. Our greatest fear is how powerful we actually are. Our greatest fear is what would happen if we let go of the need to make everything and everyone wrong. Our greatest fear is what would happen if there was no longer arguing? What would happen if there was no longer racism? What would happen if the white man wasn't stopping me? What would happen if I was no longer less than or better than someone because of the money that I made? What would happen? Guess what you'd be left with? Yourself. Yourself. That's our greatest fear. And that's truly the journey of awakening, is to realize that everything that you've thought had control or power over your life outside hasn't been such. It's actually all just been a reflection of the energy that you've been living with inside. You heal the inside, you heal the outside.
Love that. You touched on so many things there. Walk me through one of your events, right?
Okay.
I think one of the things, especially with the youth, right, as they prescribe and sign up to enlightenment and awakening, which
Mm-hmm.
I think we're in a state in a world and a society where this is more prevalent than ever before in the history of
Of
humanity,
humanity. That's
right?
right.
Which I love, right? And I think we're all experiencing this. It's this the creation of you versus you. But I'm coming in for the first time, meeting Danny. I'm sitting around other people. I'm a little nervous. What am I going to expect at one of your events? And what is the guidance and kind of the path to leaving out of there transformed?
Okay. Before I talk about the event, I have to talk about what created the event.
Okay.
I'm in ceremony and I feel a tingling energy at the base of my spine. To put it bluntly, in my butthole, basically. And I'm like, what the hell is that? And little by little, that energy starts to expand more and more and more. And it literally encompasses like the bottom half of my body. And the best way that I can describe it, and I go like this because it was a lot, man. It was the physical sensation of like a waterfall of energy. So I'm in ceremony and I ask the shaman and I go, psst, you know, I feel this thing. And you know what he told me? What he told me changed my life forever. Because I was 42 years old at the time. And he says, don't worry, you're being activated.
Mm.
Pause for a second. Because I look at everything and I look at words and I go, wait a minute. So what he's actually telling me is that I have spent 42 years of my life not activated. Because if you think about it, the base of the spine is the connection to the earth. It's the connection to the feminine. It's the connection to life. It's what has us grounded in our essence and our power. So I thought to myself, oh my God, I spent 42 years of my life not activated, right? And then the second question was, oh my God, how many billions of human beings out there are walking around planet Earth unknowingly and unconsciously not activated? And so when I started working with ayahuasca and psilocybin and all the medicines that I work with, all I thought was like, the world needs this. The world's going to be afraid of this, and that's okay. So I thought, how can I create something that can help people feel like they're having a spiritual experience like you would have with ayahuasca or psilocybin, but without it. And then that's when Awaken Your Highest Self was created. Okay. But here was the issue. I'm just going to be honest with you. Remember earlier, I talked about all of our needs, the need to be seen, the need to be the billionaire, the need for, the relationship, the need for, right? If I'm honest, man, I'm just being brutally honest here. All of that comes from a wounding. And for me, it was the wounding of my heart not being met by my mother. My mother didn't know how to love me. I grew up in one of those households where, you know, I knew my mother loved me, but she never said the words like, I love you. It was uncomfortable. It was awkward. Hugging, it was awkward. Yeah. And so that causes a void in little boys and little girls. And if you don't heal that void, what ends up happening is you look for that from other people. So that's what I did. So I used to have an event called Relentless. It was before Awaken Your Highest Self. And when I started doing this work, number one, I realized, oh my God, here I am. I say that I'm trying to help other people, but that's bullshit. I'm actually trying to help myself. I'm actually trying to feel good by having people look up to me. Yeah. And I bring that up and I say this with love and compassion, but like, I don't want to say 95%, but a large, yeah, a large percentage of the people that we look up to and the people who host events and things like this, if you feel the energy, they're not in it for you. They're in it for them. Yeah. So the first thing I had to heal was that.
Mm.
Because if I didn't heal that, then I couldn't actually help people awaken their highest self. The energy wouldn't allow it. And I remember the day that it finally clicked when I realized, oh my God, people don't need more of me. They need more of themselves. So I think that's the most important thing about Awaken is it's an event, uh, and obviously the book, it's an event where you can finally feel safe, like no bullshit, no unconscious energetic needs to go deep into your heart and soul. And that's what we do. We take you through a 3-day process to show you energetically so you could feel it separation and oneness, and living in your essence. And we help you heal your mother and father wounds. You get reconnected energetically and spiritually to all of your ancestral energy and power and strength. And if there's any sexual trauma in your body or in your energy, you heal that as well. It's, I say this, I don't even have to say I say this humbly. It just is what it is. It's the most powerful event ever created for humanity. And people literally say it's like 30 years of therapy. It's better than 30 years of therapy in 3 days. And I think it's because you're not listening to a motivator or an influencer. No, you're listening to a brother who's been on the journey that's just going to help you find the answers. Again, not in me, in yourself. And the only way to do that, you know this because you've
Yeah.
done the medicine, is to go inward and to have a spiritual experience.
It's so interesting when you mentioned the responsibility of being on stage, right? One of the things spoken at every university you could think of. I've spoken on business. I've been on every podcast you could think of. Um, and I grew up being a youth pastor, so I was comfortable being in a place where of guidance. But I did my first You versus You conference October of last year, and it was at the church that took me in when I was homeless in New York City, and also kicked me out when I was homeless in New York City. So it was a coming home moment to speak to these 100 men or 200 men that were there. Um, but one of the things that I felt right away after was the level of weight and responsibility you have when you're up there, right? The level of understanding where you have to be personally within yourself in order to be a true vessel for people to be able to look at themselves and and heal, and also for the energy to flow. And for me, it wasn't something I took lightly. I left out of that event with an understanding that it had never happened in all the different speaking engagements I've done.
Mhm.
And so when I think about going to an event like Awaken, and I think of the human experience that someone can have, and I look at what I've experienced doing ayahuasca, how taboo have you found the conversation around medicine work? Do you speak about it during the conference a lot? Do you stay away from it? Because it's still something that people are a little bit like on the fence about. But for me, it was transformational.
You know, I think one of the greatest gifts that we can ever give another is to be in communion with our truest authenticity. And when you're really your authentic self, you are unconcerned with how someone else is going to react to your life's journey. And it becomes really beautiful because when you get disconnected from that concern, you realize that, like, people feeling taboo has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. Yeah. So on the contrary, I speak, it's not I speak openly. It's just, it's a part of my life. And I share what has happened. And, I will say that the beautiful thing about the medicine is that whether it's ayahuasca or psilocybin, the medicine just reflects back to you what's going on inside of you. And so a lot of people, especially religious people, by the way, and I know because I was one of them, a lot of religious people reject plant medicine. Why? I'll tell you why. Because religion, in and of itself, is the vibration of fear and control. And people hate it when I say that, but I'll prove it to you right now. What does Santa Claus, COVID, and religion have in common? Fear. When you were a little boy or you were a little girl, you were controlled. You were manipulated. You were told if you're a good boy, then Santa Claus is going to come and give you the gifts. But if you're a bad boy or bad girl, then you're going to get punished and you're not going to get the gifts. Yes or no? Yes? Okay, fantastic. So you see, we get used to life like this. We get used to life being right or wrong, or getting what we want, or being punished. Yeah? Let's take it a step further. COVID. What happened with COVID? COVID was our collective fear consciousness being born out in a way to reflect back to us our separation from ourselves. Because whatever you decided to do was great, but let's face it, you were faced with fear. What did they tell you? If you don't do this, then you're either going to die or lose your job or lose your money, right? And for some of us, that was a moment where we said, I don't care what you say. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
And for some of us, it was a moment where we were like, no, I can't risk that. I'm going to do it. Whatever you did, what you ultimately decided, it was your relationship with fear. Yeah? Finally, what does religion do? In the story of Christianity, what it does is it outsources God. It makes us separate than God. It makes us lower than God. And by the way, it makes God a man. And why does it make God a man? Because if God is a man, then we are in our minds and we are in our masculine. That's why you will never find me a religion where a woman is the higher power, because the woman is a representation of the heart and the feminine. Here's the trickery of it all. If you're in your heart and in your feminine, then you can't be controlled and you won't buy into religion. Yeah, does that make sense?
100%.
So what does religion do? Religion creates a story and says, okay, you were born a bad person, blemish, something's wrong with you, which is forgive me, the biggest crock of shit that can ever exist. Hear that right now. There is absolutely no such thing as sin. That is make-believe from dark energy to keep you entrapped and to keep you from ever discovering what God really is and from ever discovering the essence of who you are, okay? And then because of that, you go, oh my God, I'm so wrong, right? So then you go, yeah, you're so bad and you're so wrong. Look at what I'm doing, right? That you need this. And if you don't need this, and if you don't do this, then you're going to go to the bad place. Isn't it the same as if you're not a good boy or a good girl, then you're not going to get the gift? Isn't it the same as if you don't take the shot, then you're going to lose your life or you're going to, but they like really give it to you and they say you're going to face all of eternity in this evil place where you're going to burn forever called hell. It is 100% not only a lie, it is the deepest, darkest lie in humanity. Because as a result of that lie, you are waiting for Jesus to come back and save you. Where if you just open your eyes and realize that for the last 2,500 years or whatever the case may be, billions of human beings have come and gone, and he has never come back. And or guess why he hasn't come back? Because he's never coming back. Jesus was a man that reached enlightenment. And when you reach enlightenment, you see God, and you see God as I am. You see yourself as one with God, as one with the divine and one with all of life. That's why when they asked him, who are you? He said, I am who I am. The problem is that since you think God is up there and higher than you and separate than you, instead of where he told you the kingdom of heaven is within, then you correlate Jesus with being up there and you're trapped and stuck waiting for something that is never going to happen until you awaken and reconnect to the truth.
Mic drop. Okay. I love everything that you said about not only is it something we talk about here all the time, but with the clarity and the certainty upon which you say it.
Can I tell you why? This is really important for all of us to understand. We are so consumed right now with knowledge. So we're like, how do I get better? How do I get smarter? How do I get a six pack? How do I get rich? How do I? Where's knowledge? Is knowledge in the mind or in the heart? Knowledge is the mind. Yeah. The amount in which we are consumed with looking for knowledge is a reflection of how connected we are to our minds and not our hearts. And what real spirituality does is it invites you to connect to your heart. And the reason why I say it with so clarity and such certainty is because it is truth. It is infinite truth. But you cannot discover that, my beautiful brothers and sisters, by believing in me, a preacher, or in a book. You can't. The only way you discover the truth is to go inward and discover it for yourself. That's it. Outside of that, you will always need to believe in someone else. And so my invitation to you is, listen, please don't believe me. Because if you do, you're right back at church. What I'm inviting you to do is to literally awaken to the fact that once you're here, you will never need a book or a church or a preacher ever again for as long as you live.
Love that. Talking about self, let's go back to you. So, one of the things and one of the books that changed my life is called The Uncharted Journey, right? By Don, and it's a book I will gift you at the end. But in the book, Don talks about this uncharted journey we're all on, right? The understanding that the pureness of self will always face self. You will always face you versus you. So as you look at your journey where you are today in your personal awakening, in your personal development, what would you say is the biggest internal battle you face?
The battle of being me. And I say that because, one of the most beautiful things that we can do as human beings is to transmute. And my life's journey has been all about a little side note. Go to genekeys.com, go type in your birthday, birth time, and birth location, and learn your gene keys. It'll tell you everything about yourself. Well, My purpose is to transmute. And I say that because I have faced religion. I have faced the need for money. I'm literally right now facing even relationships, the construct of marriage, the construct of relationship, the man-made constructs that are put upon us. Yeah. Like right now, if we're honest with ourselves, love equals giving up yourself and your truth and your freedom. Yeah. And I don't think that that's what love should actually equal. Yeah. I don't want to get too deep, but if you're if you're asking me what's the greatest battle I face, is that things come up for me, and what comes up for me makes me challenge the life that I see, and that can get kind of bumpy sometimes, you know what I'm saying? And if there's any battle that I have, it's that.
Danny, we always end the show with
Oh shit, I thought we were just getting started.
oh. No, we gotta save it for our 2, 3, and 4. I mean, I gotta have you back on the show. It's been incredibly refreshing. It's been incredibly motivating to hear you speak from such a place of truth and self-awareness. But one of the things that we talk about here is the power of words, right? We are the stories we believe, as we've been talking about the whole show. So what is a word or a phrase that Danny Morel today needs to hear for self?
For me? Ooh, truth. Just keep seeking the truth. But because it is true, the truth does set you free. You just have to get to a place where you know, and in essence, this is the journey of life if you allow it, which many of us don't allow it because it gets a little scary. But the more of our truth we can allow to come up, and the more of it that we allow ourselves to process and release, the more of ourselves we allow to die. And when the parts of ourselves die that no longer serve us, it gives us more space within to become a new, highest version of ourselves. Yeah. And so the most important thing that you can do right now is to be honest with yourself, to be truthful with yourself. Like, what's life like for you right now? You know, are you content and fulfilled and being your truth in your relationship, in your business, your career, your work, you know, with your health, with all of life? And the more that you allow truth to be your guide, the more that you will eventually get to a place where you are liberated and free.
Love that. Danny, thank you so much for being part of You Versus You. This has been a transformational conversation. Please let us know about the book. I can't wait to read it. When does it release? Is it out now?
Yeah, you can pre-order it now. It's going to be available. You can pre-order it on Audible, hardcover, you know, Kindle, all of the stuff. But it gets released March 17th. And one of the things that I'm doing is, if you pre-order it now, I'm hosting a master class for the first 3 weeks after the release, which is a complimentary gift. And we're actually including the breath work from Awaken, which normally like people pay $100 for it, but we're giving it to you with the book, because the book is not enough. All the book is going to do is start to like show you the parts of yourself that it's time to deal with. And then the breath work is what's going to allow you to tap into here, like I've been mentioning on the show.
Let's make sure we pre-order that, guys. We're all here. I'm gonna buy it for everyone in this office. Thank you so much for being a part of the show.
Thanks for having me.
Where can people find you before we get out of here? I know you have a tour that you're on as well, but like, where can people find more information about what you're doing?
Just my name, Danny Morel. It's either DannyMorel.com or on Instagram, Danny Morel.
Thank you for being part of the show.
Thanks for having me, man.
Thank you for tuning in to You Versus You. We would love for you to join our global community by hitting the subscribe button. And of course, share, like, and comment with anyone who you think could use these incredible conversations to reshape their lives. Our mission here is to help you live the life of your dreams.